Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Tietie, has defended the move to increase calls and data tariffs in the country by 50%. He says the action was driven by the economics of global inflation. Speaking moments after defending his ministry's budget of 11 billion naira for 2025, Tietie said the hike has become necessary to help telecom companies stay afloat. The tariff increase comes amid agitations by telecom operators in the last 2 years, demanding a 100% increase. The minister said the federal government reached an understanding with the telecom companies to lower their proposed tariff hike by half to 50%.
We've worked hard internally as professionals and political appointees, also with the support of the committee chairs, to secure the commitment of the World Bank, AFDB, and a number of other DFIs to help us invest in a $2 billion project that will lay 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables across this country.
Part of the development, I think the hike is also based on inflation globally. This is a sector that has not increased price for a long time. In fact, what government has been doing is managing the situation. The companies have been crying out for a long time that they're struggling. The cost of diesel, you can imagine how much they bought diesel last year and how much it's going for this year. And this is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria. But what we've done with them is saying that telecommunication services are now extremely important to our people. So it's not something you can just increase price haphazardly. But also, how do we support them to ensure that these companies continue to stay sustainable? This is a sector that employs about 15,000 people directly, the employees of these MNOs, but also indirectly, I think there's about 500,000 people working in the sector, whether those that are selling recharge cards or any of those services. We have to make sure that the sector continues to stay sustainable.
Well, Minister Bosun Tietie there. Now, joining us on the show to discuss this latest telecoms tariff hike is Frank Tietie, a lawyer and a Rise News analyst. Welcome to the morning show, Frank. Good to see you, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year, Dr. Abati. My pleasure indeed.
Well, very quickly, the telecom operators have cited foreign exchange volatility, poor, environment, operational costs, and they say, well, they will need 100% hike. The federal government, through the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has now agreed to a 50% hike, which simply means that the cost of a call will go from about 11 naira per minute to 16 naira. SMS rates will move from maybe 4 naira to about 6 naira. Data, per gigabyte will move from about 300 naira to over 400 naira. Now, that means we will have to pay more to use telecom services, clearly. Fuel price has gone up. To even talk is going to become more expensive, more difficult. Maybe the option is for us to talk less. And then customers are saying, service is poor. All these dropped calls, all these poor connections. Nobody is talking about that. What do you think should be our concern? Should we be defending the telecom operators and sympathizing with them? Or we should worry more about the poor service that we get? Or we should just take the option of shutting up and reducing our freedom to express ourselves?
All right, thank you, Dr. Abati. The challenge in our country is that we have a sort of unwritten tradition of always passing incompetence, the cost of incompetence, to the Nigerian population. So if our government is not doing well, the government suffers. If our government is not doing well, the people suffer. If the government needs money, it increases taxes. If government wants to arrest inflation, it does not seek any form of innovation. And then it simply just, allow prices to rise and then make life very difficult. So do you now want to pass the incompetence, the lack of innovation, the lack of alternatives to the high cost of, operating telecom industry in this country to Nigerian citizens, and you think that is justified? You think that's justified? So here's the thing. Why I understand. Somehow I didn't even have an idea I was going to talk about this, but I had been curious about, and then I had prepared a Freedom of Information request to the NCC to actually ask, when was the last time that tariffs were reviewed? But even though I just finished preparing that request when this statement came. What is interesting is that there should be some comparative analysis. Do we have such kind of increases? But before I go into that, let's also acknowledge that the telecom industry is not as roguish as we have in the other energy sector, like the petroleum. That is oil and gas sector, where they just wake up any time and then they say they've increased pump price and all that. So there's been some measure of stability. But let's understand this. And I'm coming to a very important point, and I hope that the minister addresses it. And I also hope that I am incorrect about it. And I'm referring to the provisions of Section 57 of the Nigerian Communications Commission Act. Section 57, to an extension, Section 58, all provide, and Dr. Abati, as a lawyer, I know you will check me up, so check it while I speak. And it says that, you know, there must be a sort of public inquiry, a public hearing. So I am limited to where I am here. I'm not already aware that there was that kind of public hearing where representations will be made as to whether or not the telecoms operators have been quite responsible. In a country where we have signed up to obligations as to having alternative energy sources, so why would our Minister of Communication be justifying the fact that our telecom companies are still relying on diesel? Why? So how much investment have they put in solar all these years? How much investment have they put in other alternative sources of going green, sources of energy? So that kind of lack of investment, lack of foresight, lack of innovation should not be passed on to the consumer just like that. That's why that public inquiry should have been held, because Nigerians will now represent and probably seek compensation for the myriad, for the long years of poor service and inability to complain. Because we need to also understand consumer protection, provisions of the NCC Act, and whether in practice such have actually benefited Nigerians. My friend Anene had to go up to the appeal court to be able to address an issue as small as unnecessary bombardment of advertisements on his line. So the telecom operators not going to address the fact that they've been making a lot of money from all those kind of adverts that they get that they usually bombard their subscribers with. Are they saying that they rely only on the cost of purchasing recharge cards or data? So you see, if that public inquiry was held, probably would have come out clean. And as a country that is developing, we will find these alternatives and we challenge ourselves to better standards. I understand the need for increase, and there have been some positives. Only yesterday, and I got this information this morning. All right. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Tietie, thank you so much. Now, I just want us to review again. I know you tried to answer this, but have the telecoms organization operators been fair to Nigeria? And has the NCC been doing its work as a regulator to protect the interests of Nigerians? I ask this because, yes, I can understand the justification for the need for, a hike in tariff. But also, what has been said is that the Nigerian people who use their services have been cheated in many ways, and there's no way to actually measure whether or not what they've been paid, they're getting what they've been paying for. I'll read a portion of the statement from the NCC. They say that they recognize the financial pressure faced by Nigerian households and said to this end, the Commission has mandated that operators implement these adjustments transparently. Have they been transparent in terms of providing services to Nigerians? We pay for services that we don't get. So who's going to protect the Nigerian consumer?
Look, to be honest with you, I think I like the standards by which the NCC has operated, not even in the immediate, but for a long time. The NCC has attempted to play by the rules. For example, I think they've stood their ground with regards to, in protecting and preventing any form of arbitrary increase in tariffs. However, I think the NCC has done abysmally, they failed abysmally with regards to consumer protection. Nigerians suffer, and the consumer protection, complaint and remedial mechanism mechanism is unnecessarily difficult. Sometimes it's out of reach of the ordinary Nigerian. I just refer to a friend of mine who is a lawyer who had to file. Now, he had to take a lawyer to file a case just simply to address a matter of a simple matter with regards to SMS bombardment, because these companies make a lot of money from these promotions, from these millions of SMS they send. I mean, from these SMS they send to millions of their subscribers. They should appreciate the Nigerian market. Only yesterday, because the price, I mean, the tariff has been increased, I've just been informed that the price of MTN, the shares of MTN have gained some value by 10%. So it tells you that, look, it's big business, so it's going to, you know, encourage foreign investment. But we cannot keep looking at it from that investment point of view. The idea of every investor is driven by profit, but we in Nigeria provide that kind of incentive, and we don't get it. So in terms of consumer protection, there is outright failure, real failure. And it's a big problem. The NCC should sell itself with how much it is on the side of Nigerians.
Mr. Tietie, let me play devil's advocate here. Let me go on the part of the companies. The last time they increased tariff was about 12 years ago, so you don't even need an FOI to know the last time they increased tariff. You know what the inflation rate in Nigeria was then? About the 9% percentile. Since 2016, inflation has hovered around 15, 13, 11%. Today it's 34%. You say the telecoms company make money. I agree with you. But the banks are still owing the telecoms money billions for USSD.
Yeah.
That's revenue the telecoms will never get soon to be able to improve infrastructure. You say there's a need to use solar panel, that they're not innovative enough. Do you know what the installation cost is for solar panel in one service station? Do you know how many of the telephone infrastructure have been damaged in the north due to insurgency? How many solar panels do you think they will need to be able to boost one sub-cell station? At the rate of over 30% inflation. They shouldn't increase prices. But your cost of garri in the market has increased. Do you know how much your cost of fuel has increased? Do you know how much your cost of electricity tariff has increased? I want you to make a case with all of this I've put forward. Some empirical stats I've put to you. Make a case.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so let me first of all address the issue of the monies, the USSD monies that are hanging in the bank. I mean, how does that become the problem of Nigeria? Don't they have lawyers? Don't they know the proper process to take? Don't they have the Central Bank of Nigeria that they can take to court? Can they compel them to transfer certain monies if it means shutting down certain banks? So let's not just be emotional or sentimental about that. They know what to do.
They have
with
done
regards
that.
to inflation,
they have
so
done that. The minister stepped in and nothing was done.
Yes.
Nothing was done till today. The banks are saying they don't have the money to pay. So people should suffer the cost
that's
of the deficit of the banks.
No, wait. With regards to if the bank is derelict, it should not be a problem of the Nigerian. If I had the opportunity to cancel the telecom industries, we'll move against the banks, seize their properties, shut down the banks if you have to. It's your money that they are holding on to. The banks are very ruthless when they go after their debtors. And so why should you pity them and then transfer that to Nigerian to Nigerian consumer? That is settled. I don't want to go into that. But should we, at every point in time, justify price increase with this gargantuan, with this phantom called inflation? So, look, why should we? Who was supposed to arrest inflation? And must inflation affect every industry? So, we talk about. So, would there be a concomitant and necessary increase in price in every aspect of the economy simply because one major item is suffering sort of inflation or is suffering lack of supply? We do understand. Yes.
You know what inflation is? Concomitant increase in price across every sector. Why are you not complaining of the increase of the price of your garri in the market? So why is it that the telecoms company must bear the brunt and save Nigeria?
Let's have an understanding here. We have not quarreled with the increase of tariff, it should be justified. First, we think that, do not forget the legal provision that I've referred to, which is Section 57. If the NCC had afforded us a public inquiry, we probably would have made a case that these guys have alternative sources of funding from the large market of Nigeria that is supposed to stave them off from this unnecessary price increase.
Frank, please, briefly, let's go back to where we started from. The people going to bear the brunt of this tariff hike are the ordinary Nigerians. We are now being told that talk is no longer cheap in Nigeria. Now, what would be your advice to the average Nigerians in terms of talk? Should we stop talking? You have not answered that question. What should government do to address the concerns of consumers who say that poor service has to be addressed? If we have to pay more, we deserve better service. What do you say to us, we the long-suffering people of Nigeria?
Absolutely. Now, let me tell you, before I answer the question, you see, there was one kind of very strange and scary scenario that was painted in order to justify this price increase. That the price of diesel has gone up that the telecom industries or companies are contemplating, rationing their services. So we are having a situation where, they would say only those in the southwest and northeast can communicate between themselves within a certain period of time in the day, and then after that time, those in southwest or southeast or whatever. So that is a very scary, impression to create. And so these are tactics of actually driving us to accepting whatever increase. Now, this is it. Talk is not cheap. My advice is simple. The Nigerian consumer appears to be helpless now because a regulator must have a balanced view, try to protect the industry, no doubt, so that we don't have job losses. I do understand that many of the telecom operators have been running at a loss for the past 2 years. But these are systemic issues. These are other economic issues that should not only be directly addressed by price increase. With regards to not getting value for the amount of money being paid, I have said it in this interaction that the NCC has failed. The FCCPC also has failed. I do not talk from a mere conjecture. As a user, as someone who has also lodged complaints, even with the Federal Consumer and Competition Protection Commission, I've seen how much they disregard the common Nigerian telecom user because he's insignificant. It's just one person. I see these associations that are set up. But don't really represent individual interests, but simply a means of engaging in one sort of negotiation or the other.
On that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Frank Tietie.